Just when I think there is nothing more to say, I wake up like all of you, like everyone, and it seems there's a lot more to say. What we're seeing this morning is decimation of Lebanon. What we're seeing this morning is a strike on a residential building and the entire building collapsing. Yes, these are invoking visuals of 9/11, yes, but every day in Gaza, that is what was happening. That is what we were seeing. Yet the world, the Western world, the powerful, the rich, those who could do something about it, not only stayed silent, but enabled it, justified it. The visuals coming out of Lebanon seem similar. Why? Because Israel has told us that they will turn Lebanon into Gaza. They are telling the world this is the Gaza model. What is that model? It is of devastation, residential, medical infrastructure, decimation, and yes, genocide. That is the Gaza model. What we are seeing this morning, the visuals from Lebanon, is utter devastation. They keep saying, BBC reporting, oh, it was near our hospital, we were given early warning. Yeah? Good, keep providing cover for this devastation, given warnings. There may not have been any casualties because they were given warnings. If you look at that visual, my God, even if the building was empty, what about the surrounding areas? What utter horror are we witnessing? Israel is becoming nothing but a killing machine. Just a killing machine. Aimlessly now, just romping around, killing, destroying, killing, destroying. That is what we are seeing out of Lebanon this morning. For America, this war is probably now cost $22 billion. And I don't really need to say what that $22 billion could have been used for inside of America's borders. You want America first? How about that? What those $22 billion could have been used for. Moreover, our taxpayer money is actually going to bomb Lebanon and Iran by Israel. We pay for those weapons. We pay for that destruction. We are actually paying for the genocide that Israel is committing. On top of what we are paying for, the horror that America is committing today. Cuba is under siege. A blockade, a siege, gunboat diplomacy. We are back to the 18th century. Cuba is in complete blackout. Their power grid has failed, and not sure how much of their solar panels can help. They're blockaded. We have some indication that Mexico, Spain, and Brazil are providing humanitarian aid, and that now a Russian oil tanker is on its way to Cuba to provide crude oil. So I don't think Marco Rubio, Hegseth, and Trump are going to bomb a Russian tanker for obvious reasons, but that is what we're hearing. But Cuba itself is being strangulated. Marco Rubio's long-time revenge game is on. That said, South Florida Cubans want Cuba strangulated, but probably do not want it to be decimated by bombs and missiles from America. And Hegseth and Rubio and Trump probably also don't want Cuba to be decimated. Just like Venezuela, they don't want it to be decimated. I wonder why. I wonder why they want Lebanon and Iran to be decimated, but not Cuba and Venezuela. I think Hegseth's tattoo will tell you the answer. I think his quoting from the scripture in his press briefings will give you that answer. I think Marco Rubio's affiliation with Cuba and the Cuban Americans sitting in South Florida and what they physically look like and who they are, because they left behind a lot of properties and they want that wealth back. And decimation of Cuba won't do. It is also religious. Does Trump really want to be bombing the crap out of Cubans and Venezuelans, given that they share the faith of Hegseth and Rubio? It has just become that base. It has just become that ugly. Kill as many Iranians, kill as many Lebanese, kill as many Palestinians. No problem. No problem. We're off to a crusade. We're waiting for the rapture. It's Armageddon. It's Amalek. And in the Western Hemisphere, Israel is not overtly in the frame. So genocide is off the table. Yesterday's resignation by Joe Kent is still reverberating through the American system. There is a full-on effort to just discard and dismiss all of it as anti-Semitism because he has squarely blamed Israel and the American media and the Israel lobby for this hell on earth that we are seeing. So there is that. NPR's expressing shock and horror that he has even dared to mention that Israel has led America into this war. How can you ignore Netanyahu's role? How can you ignore the assassinations that are being committed, the destruction that is being committed by the IDF? But they can, apparently. You can see with your own eyes, but you must not believe your own eyes. You must not believe your own ears. You must not mention the truth, because if you dare, you will be slammed. What about all the people dying? Should we just call you anti-Muslim? Because that is what it's turning out to be. It is a crusade, but do not mention the role of Israel in what we are seeing in the Middle East. So that is what is going on. Hysteria of the US media because Israel has been dared to be mentioned. I just wonder how the Los Angeles Persian diaspora is feeling watching the utter decimation of Iran. I'll just throw it out there. I just wonder how they're feeling. It's utterly shocking. that they get death and destruction on their homeland, and South Florida gets a blackout of Cuba and Venezuela, a kidnapping of Maduro? Do they see the difference? I wonder, because the rest of us do. So the UK keeps leaking more and more thorough information about having been at the table in Oman and being absolutely stunned at the lack of knowledge, the lack of interest that Kushner and Witkoff showed. That Witkoff took 0 notes throughout the negotiations, not one. He stepped away to focus on Ukraine. They did not bring any experts. Instead, he brought a full decorated general to the talks, and the Omanis had to escort him out of the talks. It became pretty clear there was no interest on the part of Kushner and Witkoff to take anything seriously that was going on. And sure enough, they went back to Washington and gave Trump a bunch of bullshit, which Trump was obviously expecting because he also had no interest in an agreement. And 2 days later, full-on attack on Iran. I think the most shocking part of that news story in The Guardian today is about Trump's attention span and how he very quickly moved on to his favorite subject, which was shoes. That he wanted his cabinet all to wear the same shoes that he kept on buying for them. Yes, shoes. And 2 days later, the bombing campaign on Iran started. Everybody can read the Guardian article today as more and more details come out of the horror that was Kushner and Witkoff, and 2 days later, the horror that started upon the people of Iran. So today they're holding a pretty public funeral for Ali Larijani, and as you can see, there are a lot of people on the streets in that funeral. The news from the GCC countries is that about 100,000 Brits have been evacuated from the GCC. And I say again, 100,000 Brits have been evacuated. Who is left behind are their cooks, their cleaners, their nannies, their sweepers, their drivers, all who happen to be Pakistani, Indian, Nepalese, Sri Lankan, Filipino. They are left behind. Others who are stranded in this horror happen to be the seafarers who also come from the same countries. The Philippines has a lot of their men working on these tankers and these ships. They are stranded. And if they are not stranded, they're going to be forced to navigate the Straits of Hormuz. The inequality, the unfairness, the absolute dismissiveness of the elite is showing up in this conflict. Not only the religious aspect, but also the economic aspect of those who have and those who have not. Those fleeing easily and those being forced to stay behind. And as we know, they are also getting injured, and some have actually died.